Hey, welcome back. Hey, all you red-pilled Trump supporters. Guess what? We're going to talk to you tonight. Also, there's something I want you to think about. Did you ever stop and wonder if your journey's just begun? Now, we have a president who is, for all intents and purposes, going to improve upon the situation of America, which is amazing. He's also appointed a fantastic Secretary of Defense, Mr. James Mattis. As a veteran, there wasn't a better pick. There won't be for a damn long time. So, as a veteran, let's talk about a few things. First, you voted for Trump. Have you read the Constitution? The Constitution of these United States. Better yet, have you read the Declaration of Independence? Do you know who wrote it? Do you know who was asked to write it originally? Do you know what the original intent of the Declaration of Independence was? Do you know Thomas Jefferson's real ideals? Did you know that Thomas Jefferson did not sign the Constitution? He was in Paris at the time. Did you know that if he was at the Constitutional Convention, some things would have been different? I'm assuming that you've heard about the Federalist Papers. If you haven't, I'll give you a brief rundown. The Federalist Papers were printed by Hamilton, John Jay, and I believe another gentleman, name's escaping me right now, but they were printed in hopes that they could get the Constitution ratified. So there was the plea to the states to ratify the Constitution, a plea to the people to say, this is what we're going to do, and I promise you it will give you liberty, and you will keep your liberty. You will keep the freedoms that we just fought for, because the Articles of Confederation weren't strong enough, but we created a stronger central government to help out where the Articles of Confederation couldn't. But we have to look at the Shays' Rebellion too. We cannot discount that. A decorated war veteran coming home, thrown into debtor's prison. That was ruled unconstitutional a long time ago. So, now we're looking at this Constitution. It's trying to be ratified. We don't have the Bill of Rights yet. So, here's what we're going to do. Thomas Jefferson is gone, but there were some Jeffersonians that said, look, a stronger central government is not good unless there are checks and balances provided into it. But how do you guarantee the freedoms of the individual? Here come the Anti-Federalist Papers. Now, sometimes, and in some colleges and some textbooks, they say these are a bad thing. These are horrible. They never should have existed. Trust me, I beg to differ. Without the Anti-Federalist Papers, we wouldn't have had the Bill of Rights written in and amended right after. That wouldn't have happened. Because the Federalists believed that this big, strong central government would be everything that the people needed. We're finding out now that Thomas Jefferson's worries were right. They were correct. Federal government can grow out of control very quickly. Like I said before, I am not anti-government. But I think the system of checks and balances has been a little bit subverted because of the, quote, interpretation of the Constitution. Well, that's kind of a cop-out, because the Constitution says one thing and one thing only. It's not necessarily the word, and it is not a living document either. We can amend it, but it's not living. So, here we are. We're at a place where the Anti-Federalist Papers gave us the rights bestowed unto us by, let's say, Creator, by us being humans. It doesn't really matter. They're there. Can't take them away. But, have there been times where some of those rights were taken away? Have we not interpreted the Constitution differently than anyone should have ever done it? In order to further, ideas that are not in the true concern for the citizen or the individual, that are going to impede upon freedom and liberty. Now, with freedom and liberty, am I saying that you can go kill somebody? No, of course not. That's wrong. But without these ideals, without some sort of ethic or compass to say, okay, this is wrong, don't do it, when do they stop? When do we say, okay, well, say a Supreme Court judge. They're not supposed to be political activists. They are supposed to judge everything based on honor and virtue. And the virtues being, is this wrong or right, and is it constitutional? However, if you have somebody that is a judge, a Supreme Court justice, which, they are were our last stand against tyranny, at least according to how it was set up, and that they were going to be a lifetime member, because if somebody came to them and was trying to pass something based on a political agenda and impose tyranny, they were the last stop, right? But what happens if somebody that wants that very tyranny, not because they think it's tyranny, but because they don't think you're smart enough to think for yourself. They think that you need to be under the thumb of the government because you are not someone that can think for themselves, or that you can be entrusted with anything on your own. Driver's license, I mean, just as an example. You're not intelligent enough to understand the complexities of government or the complexities of the Constitution. They're automatically thinking that you're ignorant. So, they believe in things like the Communist Party. And whether you're communist, I don't care. It's not a good system. It's got a proven track record of killing millions of people. I mean, quite literally. And don't ever say to me that it wasn't real communism. Of course it was. That's exactly what communism is intended to do. You've had a communist card-carrying member in the Supreme Court since the 30s. Each time when it's been rotated in or out. And if you say it's socialism, well, socialism is the end game of socialism is communism. They're not the same, but one begets the other. You can't have one without the other. The one leads to the other. So, for all intents and purposes, yes, they are the same. One's just not quite as violent yet. But if we remember history, the Nazis were socialists, weren't they? Stalin was a communist. Mao was a communist. Socialism does lead to communism. It leads to a dictatorship and an oligarchy. Well, actually, technically, oligarchy is technically a dictatorship because that dictator has to have his oligarchy at the top in order to run things. Now, I want you to take a look at the way our government is structured. No president should have the power they've had for the past 30 years. It spans a long time. Let's relook at freedom, go back to the Constitution, go back to the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers and reread them if you haven't already done it. Go back and understand what freedom is and why the fathers set it up like that. They weren't stupid. They knew exactly what they were doing. They did it slowly, and they did it because they could not count on human nature alone. There had to be some sort of system to say, you cannot trample on anyone else. You cannot do it. If someone breaks a law, that's different. But then again, how many laws have been written in the past 150 years that do exactly that trample on another's liberty and freedom? Go back and think about it and read and understand. What we have here is a very, very, very small moment in time to make sure that every citizen of our country and everyone around the world understands what freedom is and stop this slow, gradual slide towards an oligarchy and tyranny. Just because we voted him in office doesn't mean it's done yet. You ain't done. Go back to the beginning. If you want to start with me, you can. That's where I'm going. But I'm not going to stop at the beginning of our country, or even before that. I'm going back to the beginning of humanity to understand who we are, why we're here, and how we got here. I'm also leaving religion, and for the most part, politics out of it. I'll do my best not to mention any political party, because we're all in this together, we're all in the same ship, and a rising tide lifts all boats. We'll see you soon.